Agency Formation Commission of the regular meeting on September 10th, 2018. First order of business, please, we'll do roll call.
Testing. Oh, great. Commissioner Orth.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Ward.
Here.
Commissioner McCowan.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez. Here. Commissioner Doble.
Present.
Commissioner McNerlin.
Present.
Commissioner Hamburg. Here. Commissioner to-be Bazzani. Apologies from Commissioner Rosenberg.
Okay, we'll go on to public expression. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to address the commission on an item not on the agenda? Please come up to the podium and state your name.
Yes. I'm not sure if I'm on the agenda or not. And you're
No, this is
item
not, well, I don't think you're on the, what's it about?
No, she's not. I'm okay, I'm not. Then it's under
Okay.
Correspondence, I guess.
Yes,
Item 8 was.
or public expression.
Anyway, my name is Lisa Wager, and
Okay.
I don't know if you all have had a chance to review the letter. It was under Correspondence.
I read your letter.
Okay. And so my family has a ranch on Ore Springs Road, and I'm a fifth generation Mendocino County resident. My great-great-grandfather was Samuel Orr, who started Orr Hot Springs.
Oh, wow.
And my family has been in that area for a long, long time and in the ranching business. And my husband over there is Craig Blenko. He's been a resident of Mendocino County for 30 years. He's been on the RCD for the last 23 years, the RCD board. And he's pretty well known for being very involved and a leader in sustainable forestry. At our ranch, we do forestry, and also we have cattle. And our grazing operation has been certified by Fish Friendly Farming. So I just wanted to introduce myself to you and let you know that we have deep roots in this community and care very much about it. Anyway, the nature of my letter was about the Measure C that the Mendocino Coast Hospital District passed. And it turns out, to my surprise and horror, that Measure C encompassed our ranch. Our ranch is on the Ore Springs Road. We're roughly 30 minutes to Ukiah, and we're roughly an hour and 15 or 20 minutes to Fort Bragg. And I don't know if you all had a chance to look at the map that I sent you. I sent actually a few maps. But I'm going to show you this map. Or this is actually out of the what's it called? The municipal service agreement. Anyway, if you can see that this is the hospital district, and then the hospital district makes this huge kind of dog leg to the left, and that's in your information. Anyway,
Excuse me, Uma, we got the maps in the letter, didn't we? All of this?
yes.
Okay.
So I wanted to point out that that the eastern boundary nowhere else goes nearly that far east, and so prior to the election, the hospital district put out various literature in support of the proposition, and one of the things that they said is that certain zip codes were going to be encompassed in the hospital district, and but they did not say that either the Ukiah or the Redwood Valley zip codes would be included, and the properties that we're here sort of ultimately seeking a detachment for were in the Redwood Valley and the Ukiah zip codes. Our ranch is in the Ukiah zip code. So both and then the map that they also had in their literature, again, omitted the area that is actually included in the actual real LAFCO map. Anyway, so I'm here today to first of all point out that I don't think anybody in our area really had any kind of adequate notice that they would be included in this district, or they would be subject to this tax. And so I sent out a letter to landowners explaining the situation and asking them if they were in support of a detachment to please respond. And I have 31 responses so far from the neighbors. I have given those to Uma, and obviously you're welcome to look at them. All the neighbors not only included their names and signed them seeking detachment, but they also listed all of their APNs, so you know that they're legit. Anyway, so I guess really what I'm asking here today is that the last municipal service agreement was prepared in and finalized or approved in August of 2014. And I'm asking that you would consider or review the municipal service agreement next year in 2019. And in doing that, then we could, within the confines of that process, review the borders. And ultimately, we would be seeking a detachment of the area from about milepost 20 or 21 east, because there are neighbors that have signed this, that are involved in this, who probably are 20 minutes from Ukiah, and then you can do the corresponding math. And there are neighbors that are closer to, slightly closer to Comshy, but they still are much closer to Ukiah than they are to the Fort Bragg Hospital. So it seems like it was some sort of mapping error. I don't know how this happened. It doesn't make any sense to me. Certainly the hospital they must have been unaware of it, or they were not forthcoming in their advertising materials. Mm-hmm. And it seems terribly unfair. And all the people that I've written to.
We get the point.
Yeah, we do.
What's that?
You want to
I believe we have the point.
Okay,
and
very good. I'll stop
perhaps
talking.
Give some direction to staff.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, thank you for your time. I hope you guys can support this, because it would really be important. And if you're wondering why we don't just come forward and do a detachment, Uma was very kind to also send me the information on that. And I don't know, but a detachment of this size, because there's thousands of acres involved here, would be hideously expensive for the landowners to raise the money. So it's probably just prohibitive, honestly.
Okay, we'll look at it at a future date then.
Okay, so hopefully we can get on the calendar next year and get this resolved. That's
Okay,
what we're
very good.
hoping.
Is there anybody else who would like to address the commission? Again, state the name, please, for the record.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Barry Vogel. I know many of you over the last 44 years that I've been practicing law here in Ukiah, and I'm happy to tell you that I stopped June 30th. Till this matter came back.
Too bad.
Warren and others will applaud.
Or do what's right. And that's what we're here asking you to do. My question is, why was not all residents in 95482 included in this tax? We were. My property is adjacent to the Weger property. Tom Madden's property is a stone's throw from mine. Long stone's throw, big stone. But here's the deal. From my property to Ukiah is 35 to 40 minutes. From my property to the coast is about an hour and 25 minutes. So if there's a medical emergency, we're not going to go to the coast.
Right.
We're going to want to get it quickly. What do I want you to do? I would respectfully ask that this matter be put on your next agenda. Not at some point in the future, with all due respect. What do we want you to do in addition to that is to take the necessary steps, consult with county council or whomever, that the tax of $144 per parcel, not, I have one parcel. The Weger family has multiple parcels, all adjacent. That tax be suspended so that it does not show up on our November tax bill. And what it would mean if you choose not to do that it gives every one of us a claim against the government for the amount of tax that was unlawfully imposed upon us. You know, it's kind of like taxation without representation. I did not receive any information about this. The explanation that you just got from Ms. Weger is that it was a mistake. That's fine. We all make mistakes. But when we make mistakes, and when our government makes mistakes, it must be rectified. Failure to rectify it, what happens then? I will share with my neighbors the process of filing a claim against the government. Mine would be for $144 and an imaginary amount thereafter for aggravation, which will evaporate. Others may be greater. And I think it's the obligation of LAFCO to step forward and act on this promptly.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, you have a question?
I'd just like to comment. Hi, I'm Teresa.
Hi.
Mr. Vogel, LAFCO doesn't have the authority to suspend any taxes at all. That's not an authority within LAFCO. I believe those taxes are levied by the County of Mendocino, and my suggestion would be to appeal to them, or I'm sure you could find legal means. I mean, we could certainly address the district border issue, but actually giving the county direction not to receive taxes is not within our authority.
Well, now that the road out to our properties along the county road is paved, I can say this is where the rubber meets the road. And what I mean by that is that LAFCO should be specifically clear, very clear, recognizing that this was an honest error and it should be rectified, and adopt a resolution to the county agreeing with us and saying that in the interim, until this is resolved, you are on the side of the citizens. We understand that you are not an elected body, but that doesn't relieve you of your duty to those of us who were ill-served by this matter.
So was the error in us approving the MSR with the boundary as it is, or was the error in the election process with misleading information?
Probably both. Probably both. I confess I'm not that familiar with the details, but I am familiar enough to know that a whole bunch of us will be wrongfully taxed. And that's the goal. Mm-hmm. Our goal is to correct the problem. Our goal is not to make a big hullabaloo and commence litigation. But there are specific time frames that are involved when someone is wrongfully harmed by the government. And there's two perspectives as to when that time frame begins. The surest one.
We're getting into a level of detail beyond what we need to know.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll finish my sentence, John, and go on. The surest one that we know is when the tax bill comes in November. That's when the 6-month claim period would start. But thank you for your time and attention.
Well, thank you, and we'll look into it. Anybody else would like to address the commission? Again, try to keep it within 3 minutes. We pretty much heard.
It'll be less than that.
The whole.
I'm Tom Madden from out there too, and I was calling every county agency about this, and they kept steering me back to this hospital. And apparently, they say the hospital is the ones that controls this, and I'm talking about the auditor, the assessor, the tax collector, and all say the hospital board is the one that has to okay this. So here we are, and I'd like to get this thing taken care of. It is the times are all right. You know, it's about an hour and 15 minutes as opposed to a half hour. When I go to the hospital, I go to Ukiah, unless I'm already on the coast. You know, but that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. We'll move on to, did you have a comment?
Well, I do. I do think we could give direction to staff, first of all, to review the issue of the boundaries of the district and what are referred to as the additional lands.
And how it was formed.
Because potentially there's some discrepancy there. So I think it's in everyone's interest to ask staff to review that. And
You suggesting put it on a future agenda too?
well, no, I was going to say that we simply direct that the MSR occur next year as requested.
Well, we'll have to.
Which would be on schedule. It'd be 5 years. So, and I don't know if it's on our current schedule where it fits, but the hospital district is one of those standalone that is somewhat unique. So it wouldn't throw other things off if we simply schedule it for next year.
Well, we are looking at our work plan for the next 5 years, and we can certainly come back with a recommendation from the executive committee. Yeah,
I'd
Teresa?
at least like it on the agenda so I can hear back what they say, what they find out, when that border changed, if there was some mistake made, did somebody want it changed? I mean, I'd like it on the agenda at least to get a staff report.
Sure, well, that'd be part of the executive officer's
Jerry?
report.
Actually, I want to hear what Uma was going to say something, and then I wanted to say something.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that the codes say that the sphere of influence will be reviewed or updated as necessary every 5 years, and the municipal service review is done in conjunction or just prior to the sphere update. There is no statutory requirement for the MSR to be updated every 5 years. The sphere was updated for the hospital district in 2016. I just wanted to clarify that. I
suppose if we were willing to get the direction, it would be to review both the sphere and the MSR.
That would be my recommendation, yes.
Barry?
I guess that's what I would want to do, but like Teresa, I would at least like an update, if not at the next meeting, the meeting after that, just so that we know what you found out, and it's not like we have to redo it all in the next month, but at least we know, so we can be responsive to the public.
Okay, Tony.
I would just note the hospital district was originally part of LAFCO, and had special legislation that due to being in the red rather than in the black, they were opted out by state law, but they opt in once they go into the black again. So we need to review that every year to see if their financials, where they are, because it does affect the LAFCO budget.
Yeah, that was my impression, Uma, is that they do not pay fees to LAFCO. Therefore, we weren't doing any MSR or SOI work. But we did do the work. So therefore, how do they reimburse us?
I wasn't aware of that. We did do an MSR and an SOI, and we do have it on our work plans scheduled for 21-22. I would have to look into the other issue, and I could include that in my report back to the commission next month.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else make a comment? All right, I think the direction would be to look into this and then get back to us based on what you heard from the commission, and hopefully we'll have an answer for you folks as well as soon as we can. This is an agenda item, so we can't really take action on the item today.
May we ask that we be notified,
Sure.
those of us who spoke today, as to status and receive a copy of the report? And leave our contact with your staff?
Yeah, that would work.
Thank you.
I'm actually going to be out of the country, I think at your October meeting. So
Jerry, they need to.
this be put on
Can you
the
come up to
agenda?
the deal here? We have to have it on
We record it, so
record.
they can't hear in the recording.
I was going to say, I'm going to be out of the country during your October meeting. I was wondering if it's going to come back on the agenda, could it be in the November meeting? Is that all right, or just because then I could actually attend?
Well, I heard that you wanted this done as quickly as possible.
Well, if
but
it's okay, if
She's the leader of our cabal. You should be part of it.
that's fine. Is that okay with you for November?
Sure, that's fine.
We can work it out.
That's great. It might take us that long.
okay, thank you.
Have fun outside the country. Be safe.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 3, other business. Our alternate special district representative. Thank you, folks. You want to give the oath to our new commissioner? Alternate
I think someone
commissioner.
walked off with my paper.
I don't have this memorized. Some of you have to have this
Oh,
memorized
the
right now.
district.
Yes.
Well, one is, how was the district formed?
good.
Because there should have been protests at that time by the landowners of anyone that was going to be included. Number 2, their paperwork did not show
My life, it's always exciting.
for the election, then it's invalid.
Let's give them a minute.
So.
Okay, we ready?
Yes, we are.
All right, back to
Testing. Can everyone hear me?
our meeting. Go ahead, Beth.
I would like to introduce the elected alternate special district commissioner representative, Jennifer Bazzani, and now she will recite the oath.
I, Jennifer Bizzani, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties which I'm about to enter.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks.
You want to sign your life away now?
Yeah.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
So as an alternate, you don't vote, but we do encourage you to participate in our discussions, and anytime you want to speak on any subject, just raise your hand, we'll recognize you. So, all right, we'll move on to consent calendar. I would like, unfortunately, to pull 4B claims. Anybody else want to, any issues with the minutes or support letter?
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of the consent calendar with the exception of item 4B.
Thank you.
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
Second.
Thank you, Jerry.
No further discussion. We'll do a roll call, please.
Commissioner McNerlin? Aye. Commissioner Doble?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Orth?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes, thank you. The item that I wanted to bring up is the bookkeeping. Excuse me, we'll start with the rent. The rent on our budget program, you have it at $415, and the dollar amounts don't equal the $14,342. It actually is off by the $30 for the rent on the room, so that our budget track will be consistent. And I just wanted to bring it to the commission that the bookkeeping charges for this last month were excessive, but they were called for because of entering QuickBooks, but actually what it was is our executive director actually compiling our financial statements for the audit. In the past couple of years I've been doing that, but this year Uma has been doing that, and I will be given a review at our executive committee to submit it to the auditor. She did an excellent job. So I can't find too much wrong with her, a couple little things. But that did bring up our bookkeeping expenses to pretty much 50% of our budget after 2 months. So I'm a little concerned about that. We have 10 more months and we're already at 50% of what we budgeted. But other than that, I wanted to get that budget track, the $30 on there. Other than that, that's all I had. I did review our attorney actual hours, John, and still we're doing pretty good. So I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the claims.
I'll second her motion. I think you beat me to it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve. Let's do a roll call, please.
Commissioner McNerlin? Commissioner Doble? Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Orth?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes, thank you. So we'll move on to item number 5, public hearing. There are none for this particular month. Move on to item 6, workshop items. Again, there's no workshop items for this particular month. Moving on to matters up for discussion and possible action. Number 7, proposed 7A, proposed area of interest. I'll turn it over to you, Uma.
Thank you. The area of interest policy is a policy that was proposed, that was reviewed by the Policies and Procedures Committee and presented to the Commission at the June meeting, with direction to staff being to widen the outreach to include special districts. Previously, the outreach had been to cities and the county. So we did do that. As a reminder, the area of interest is a policy tool that serves as a compromise approach to recognize areas that may be not suitable for inclusion in the sphere of influence at this time, but would warrant additional communications between the agencies or entities. There is no statutory recognition of areas of interest, so establishing one during a sphere update, for example, would be exempt from CEQA. It is a program to enhance the communication between local agencies and the county, and would be an encouragement to the agencies to work towards an agreement regarding coordination in those areas. The area of interest draft language for the policy is it's almost completely consistent with the language that is used by other LAFCOs, including Butte, Merced, Napa, Nevada, San Luis Obispo, Stanislaus, and Ventura LAFCOs. During the June Commission meeting, staff was directed to remove the under item B of the proposed language to change give great weight to consider. So that is included in your agenda packet on page 16. We received a call from one district, a cemetery district, asking for more information. That's the only feedback we've received from agencies.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the commission? Jerry?
I just want to say I think it's important because there are ideas or things that come up during the MSRs or SOIs that we all kind of look at, and then it kind of gets forgotten, and then in 4 years, at least it'll memorialize those issues. So I think it's important.
Well, comments from the Policy and Procedure Committee, Tony?
This isn't from the committee, but the Brick Trails Board did agendize and discuss and by motion approve support for this policy. Some of the reasons are the Sherwood Corridor. We have a lot of interested public that are working through Brick Trails. It's in our SOI, some of it, but there's a lot of lands to our immediate east that we're going to be working on to try to get what we call fire ready, that are outside the district, that are outside our SOI. It's actually in Little Lake Fire District. There are a lot of the unincorporated areas between Brick Trails and the adjoining areas to the south to Willits is of interest to Brick Trails. So Brick Trails is very supportive of this. And we're currently updating our MSR, and we'll make use of this probably immediately. So.
Good. John, do you have a comment?
Well, I'm still kind of curious what the purpose really is, because the background refers to challenging boundary considerations. That would imply this is something that would only come into play when there's boundary adjustments being proposed. But the example given in what we're expected to adopt relates to development or approval of a development project. So I'm not sure that I have a lot of clarity on what this would really do or when it would be triggered.
Do you have some suggestions for him?
Sure. I can give an example outside of Mendocino and one inside. Outside, it would be an area that was between two cities. For example, if you know the Gridley area over in the Central Valley, there are two cities that are close together. They do not have coterminous boundaries or spheres. And there's an area in between that both cities would like to expand into. Rather than include that area in either of the spheres of those cities, LAFCO established that area as an area of interest, so that any development that occurred in that area would trigger a sit-down discussion with both cities and the county. That would be the use of an area of interest. Locally, as we get into the sphere update for the city of Willits, it may be appropriate to consider something like an area of interest established over the new bypass areas, the ingress, egress, thank you, for the bypass. It may not be appropriate to extend the sphere out to those areas. There are areas of agriculture in between, yet the city is concerned with those areas and would like may wish to have special communications and a sit-down conversation with the county and other agencies that would be involved in that development of those areas. So that would be another possible use for the area of interest.
And then would an area of interest first be established before anything else would be triggered under this policy?
Typically, the area of interest is established during a sphere update. It's as we're reviewing the sphere, we look where the appropriate sphere may be. There are CEQA considerations with any sphere update. That's something else the commission will need to look at. And it may be a way to identify those areas that would not trigger CEQA. I'm not sure I answered your question, Commissioner McCowan. Maybe.
Probably with the review of the SOI at the time, they'll be finding these areas of interest.
Well, and again, the areas of interest, the first sentence says LAFCO may at its discretion, and everything you said made sense and puts this in context for me. But to me then, if we're adopting a policy, we could put a period after the first sentence in A and eliminate the example, because I'm not sure how valid the example necessarily is, but we would still have that there would be, if you designate an area of interest, you know, then everything flows from that. And then B and C would stay as is. But I don't know that the example, to me, raises more questions than it answers. What you provided gives me an answer. But.
Okay.
Okay, so you're good with that? Is there any other comments on this? Well, I want to thank the P&P committee again for their work. Thank you. It's something that seems to be working in other counties as well. It's another tool in our toolbox.
Right. And certainly with regard to the Willits bypass and the freeway exits, that is a very logical area where we might establish an area of interest for the reasons you stated.
Okay.
Okay, good. So you would like to make an motion? Are you looking for a motion here?
Yes, there is a resolution in your packet.
Do you want to make it?
No, I just want it restated how it's going to read.
Well, and I guess, you know, I'm certainly, I mean, I really could go with it either way, but I don't think the example does add much. But if someone feels strongly that it should be in there, then that's fine.
Well, let's keep the work to a minimum. We'll just take it as is. Is that all right?
Certainly.
Okay. So now I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, John.
I'll make the motion. Make the motion to adopt resolution number 2018-19-01, Mendocino Local Agency Formation Commission approving the area of interest policy.
I'll second.
Okay, any more comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Orth?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Commissioner Doble?
Yes.
Commissioner McNerlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes, thank you. We'll move on to item 7B, white paper on agriculture preservation. Uma, I'll throw it back at you again.
Thank you. This was a white paper that was released by, was written and released by CALAFCO and the American Farmland Trust in February of this year. So this is just a report. The white paper was provided to the commission back in February. I wanted to follow up with a report on just some of the more interesting items that the commission may not be aware of that was in the white paper. So LAFCO has a mandate to preserve agricultural lands and open spaces, and that's set forth in the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act. I'll quote, "Among the purposes of a commission are discouraging urban sprawl, preserving open space and prime agricultural lands, encouraging the efficient provision of government services, and encouraging the orderly formation and development of local agencies based on local conditions and circumstances." One of the things that I didn't know when I read this white paper is that prime agricultural land is defined differently at the federal, state, and LAFCO levels. LAFCO doesn't just refer to prime agricultural lands that are mapped on the farmland mapping and monitoring program that is done by the state. It also includes, if you look at the bottom of your page 19 in your agenda packet, it includes irrigated lands with a rating of class 1 or 2. It also includes lands that have been in continuous agricultural operation for a specified number of years. CEQA typically relies on the farmland mapping that is done at the state level for identifying prime agricultural lands. So this is LAFCO's definition goes above and beyond that. Some areas that LAFCO can help educate on this issue is during general plan updates and development plans that are occurring to review and comment on the CEQA documents, particularly during general plan updates. That becomes important. There are methods included in the white paper for how LAFCO can approach preserving the agricultural lands. We do have policies in the Mendocino LAFCO policies that look pretty comprehensive towards meeting those goals. There are 3 methods. There's avoidance, which is the most effective method. There's minimization, which is a little less effective, and that they really encourage the continuous coordination between the agencies in that process. And then mitigation, which is considered the least effective means, and that often includes the acquisition and transfer of ownership of agricultural lands or doing agricultural conservation easements for permanent protection of the lands. There was also some best practices for LAFCO. I'm not going to go over those, but they are in the agenda packet in the white paper. And it looked to me that most of them had been met by the policies and procedures that we have in place already.
So are you suggesting that we need to enhance our current policies?
I don't think so at this time. It's more just I was interested to know that the prime agricultural lands didn't, that was defined differently. And I think that's something that the commission and we will need to be careful about when we look at annexations in the future and sphere updates.
Okay. Tony.
I would suggest notifying the clearinghouse as to our interest in making comments on any general plan updates within Mendocino County as a prime step. That means if they fail to do so, we have recourse.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you for the information, and it's good to know our policies pretty much covered it too. Carrie.
Yes, and there is a committee that has continued that worked on the sustainability of agricultural preservation in Mendocino County, and the RCD led that. They had the grant funding to write a report, and the committee has continued. They met last Friday. I sent a copy of this off to them so that they have it in their information. And I don't see anyone here. I don't know if they had time, being that we didn't get our packets until, like Thursday. And by the time I found it, went on the website and sent it off, they may not have reviewed it. But I wanted them to have that within their arsenal, so to speak, in protection of agricultural lands. So I wanted to share that with them, and I think it's a good thing to do.
Question for Commissioner about RCD.
Oh, Resource Conservation District. It's countywide, and it's a semi-agency of the county, I guess is the best way to put it. And they've been going, it originally started as the Willits Soil Conservation Service.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, and spun off from Willits. And it was made a county-wide. Board of Supervisors appoints their board of directors, and they look for grant funding to do restoration work throughout the county and lead those efforts. They have professional people in their office that help with that, so that's
Tony?
what it's about.
They're also the major contractor for the mitigation lands
yes,
of the
for Willits.
bypass, and Briefly, for a historical note, I sat on that committee that the Willits Bypass Development Committee with Caltrans, and represented the LAFCO issues of creating the bypass as a urban barrier to help save the Willits Valley, 2/3 of it, for ag land. So it was stated throughout the documents while the bypass was developed that the bypass was to serve as a barrier, an urban barrier. So I just want to put that on record.
Thank you.
Very good. I found it interesting that the city of Ventura, I think it was the city of Ventura, put a green belt completely around their city. And that was pretty interesting.
And actually Petaluma has that.
Had Petaluma too?
Yes, and I just...
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the when you talk about that, there's several of us that can remember when the freeway went through Ukiah Valley, and where McDonald's is today used to be a pig barn, and there was all kinds of orchards. It was just a stop sign, and you look today how urban growth has formed around a major highway system, and where the city of Ukiah has expanded. So it is very important, and actually in the day, I think for about 10 years, spoke against the bypass going through Little Lake Valley because of wetlands and because of the agriculture that was taking place in that valley. But lost that one, so but as protection we can give is important.
But we got the viaduct, which doubled the cost of the project and did keep hydrological function in the valley floor.
We don't need greenbelt, we need fire lines around our cities.
Yeah, that's true too. Well, a green belt could be.
Well,
Yeah, I was
as long as it doesn't burn. All right, any other comments on this? Thank you for the information. We'll move on to item 8A, work plan, current and future proposals.
Thank you. We have no changes to the active or applications on hold, no new pre-applications or change to the potential future projects. We do provide an update on the work plan status. The update is essentially the Gantt chart that is on page 50 of your packet, the last page. We did provide the administrative draft of the sphere update to the city of Willits a couple of weeks ago. And they are in the process of reviewing that, and we hope to be able to meet this week with staff to go over that. And then the intent is to get it on as a workshop on the October 2nd meeting. Otherwise, we are moving forward with, let's see, the Fort Bragg Rural Fire Protection District and the Ukiah Valley Fire Protection District are a little busy, as I'm sure you all know. And so that one will be delayed likely until later in the fall. We'll start those up again. In the meantime, we are working on brook trails.
Okay, any questions on the Gantt chart? And the executive committee will be reviewing this as well today, as well as the cost for each project. I'll give you a report back.
And of course, that'll include the questions raised earlier this
Yes, yes. You mentioned in there that you're not going to provide us with any workshop information in January of 2019 because of the holidays.
Correct.
I just want to bring up for August and now September, we haven't had any workshops or public hearings too, so I don't want to fall behind, so I'd like to keep that at least open to see so we can keep on schedule, especially if we have to take on another MSR project. So that's something that I'm concerned with.
We can certainly try to do that. When we tried to do that with the cemetery districts, there were a lot of staff gone in at the end of November and December.
I understand.
So we will keep that in mind, though, and try.
But, you know, we're already going to be behind on our fires because of the fire season, so just want to keep it going. All right. Any more comments on the work plan? We'll move on to 8B, correspondence.
We received a number of letters regarding the Mendocino Coast Hospital District. They have all been provided except when received to the Commission. We received one from Mr. Norman Duvall regarding the hospital district budget, and then also from Lisa Wager. That is it. That was it, I believe, for the correspondence.
And then you received how many property owners that signed those? About how many?
She said about 32,
32.
Have signed letters that she provided today.
Okay. Any other comments? We'll move on to Executive Officer report.
I just have a few announcements. The special district election nominations for the regular and alternate positions are due on September 13th. We have not received any yet. Oh, we did receive one. For alternate or regular?
I believe it's a regular.
For a regular seat, okay. And then public member, the notice was put in the papers and released, and those applications are due on October 26th. And we have 4 commissioners going to the conference. The registrations and hotel reservations have been made. Let's hope it doesn't go there. And that's all I have for the executive officer's report.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. All right, the 8D committee reports, Policy and Procedures Committee. Tony, Dan.
Yep.
I think you're.
We've had to keep postponing with summer schedules, health vacations and whatnot, but we're getting there.
Well, we have the special interest area, so, but there's another one you're working on too, I believe, right?
Compensation.
Yeah, that was it. Okay. Yeah. Okay, the executive committee's meeting. After this meeting, we'll have a report back. I don't think we met prior to that.
Do we
No.
meet after the last meeting?
All right, we moved on to 8E, commissioner reports, comments, or questions. John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, just because there's so much public interest in it, I just wanted people to be aware the executive office is working closely with CAL FIRE, with private property owners, with the city of Ukiah, and other agencies on how to improve fire mitigation and prevention in the Western Hills of Ukiah. There's actually quite a few opportunities up there, and CAL FIRE is extremely interested and very helpful. They do have one program that if you go through their process, then there is no liability to the landowner if something goes awry. Separately from that, at least one landowner is interested in moving forward on his own. And again, there's a lot of interagency cooperation to assist in these efforts. And once more information has been gathered, I'm pretty confident there will be a public meeting, both to inform the public and hear from the public.
Okay, good. Thank you, John. Tony?
I'll continue on the same note. Brook Trails is working on memorandum of understandings with property owners to achieve a similar result, which is to do pre-fire work on existing road structures, dirt roads, to allow for rapid ingress by emergency personnel in a fire situation. So we're also working on that, and that's part of why we like the area of interest, because these are areas outside our district boundaries.
Carrie.
Yes, and on that subject, the legislature is looking at conflicting policies that we have. I believe the Board of Supervisors might be looking into the air quality district as the board of directors for that particular district. When you hear no burn days, or it has to do with air quality, not necessarily fire suppression that you can do on lands. It's all about air quality. Yeah. So do we want suppression burns and maybe some bad air quality for 2 or 3 days? Or do you want it, what we've just gone through, and my eyes are still bloodshot
Yeah.
from, you know,
6 weeks.
month and a half, yes. So it's really important that we do take a look at this and follow along with the state and what they're doing as well, because we do have conflicting regulations
Good.
that disallows people to go forward, and even CAL FIRE.
Good comments. Good comments. Anything else?
Just on a historic note to Commissioner Brown's comment, Brick Trails did control burns in the 80s and received the most complaints CAL FIRE ever had on air quality issues. So it is something that needs to be addressed.
Okay. Beth?
Also, the Fish and Game Commission, which falls under the Board of Supervisors, recently held, in conjunction with the Mendocino Farm Bureau, a burn symposium for residents to find out the policies, procedures, and way to go forward with permits to do their own controlled burns. And it was a success. I believe they're going to do another one.
Okay. The only thing I'd like to add is there's 4 of us going to CALAFCO, and based on previous history, we've all come back with a report of what we learned for the other commissioners. So I just wanted to bring that up to the 4 of us that are going, that we sort of find in areas that we like and then bring back a report for the full commission. Because I think our CALAFCO is before our next October meeting, correct?
It's actually just after. We meet on the 2nd, and then I think we leave on the 3rd.
So we won't give a report until November.
Yeah.
Okay. Good remember. All right. We'll do, last one is 8F, CALAFCO Business and Legislative Report.
I did have a couple legislative updates on AB 2258, which we did the support letter in the packet today. That has passed the legislature, and the next step is to be signed by the governor. So these are really important that we'll get these off today. They did pull the funding portion of that for this year, so the intent is to get this signed by the governor this year and then try to get into the budget process for next year. The other update was the AB 2262, which was the Coast Life Support District bill that the commission provided a letter of support for. This was the Sonoma LAFCO had requested that we do a letter of support. That bill looks like it has died at this point. The California Emergency Medical Services Authority got involved and opposed it, and so it was a situation where neither entity backed down. So I believe that it has died at this point. It may come back later, but that's the update for now.
About the grant program.
The grant program is the 2258 that looks like it's headed for the governor's
What
desk.
about adding in the other item that we had? There was 2 things that we were looking at, maybe. One, go ahead.
That was the funding for the mandated unfunded.
Yeah.
So I did speak with Pamela at CALAFCO, and she said those did not make it into the bill. But again, the funding is going to be looked at next year if they can get the bill passed this year.
Looks like our budget's going up next year. All right, any more comments? Nothing more? We're adjourned. Thank you.
9,
Only an hour.
6. That might. I think we had a
Less than
few
an
at
hour.
9:56.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.